How's the royal family? I pray that everyone is doing well. Well, my royal family, as I say often, as the plot thickens, all these many twists and turns in this case. So I got something to read the royal family. Attorney General Daniel Cameron requested extension for releasing Breonna Taylor's grand jury recording. The release of the recordings of the grand jury presentations in Breonna Taylor's case may be delayed. Attorney General Daniel Cameron's office filed a motion Wednesday asking the judge for a 1-week extension in order to redact the names of witnesses and private citizens, including the jurors, for the recording. The motion was filed at 10:30 a.m. Wednesday, the same day Cameron was expected to release the recordings. I'm just going to say Kevin G, because I cannot pronounce this man's last name to save my life. It's spelled Glogower. The attorney for the jury who filed a motion Tuesday for the release of the recording told Wave 3 News that he thought Cameron's motion was fair. I'm not surprised, Attorney G said, but that does not change the fact that they need to be transparent, whether it's 1 week or 2 weeks from now. Cameron has said he does plan on releasing the recording, adding that he is confident in the case he basically has presented. So, last night, this super coon, he did an exclusive interview on WDRB. And I've been telling y'all for the longest, they purposely sometimes, I notice, will record stuff low. This is a 33-minute and 41-second interview. I'm going to leave the link so y'all can have leisure to listen to it yourself. It is so damn low. But I will play this for the royal family. Because, he was Mr. Confident last night.
Cameron is defending how he handled the Breonna Taylor case. No one was charged in her death.
In an interview you'll see only on WDRB, Cameron sat down with our Lawrence Smith to talk about what happened behind closed doors in the grand jury room. Lawrence?
Well, as you know, grand jury testimony is usually secret, and Cameron has been very tight-lipped about the case he presented. But with the testimony about to go public, he says now's the time to set the record straight.
Tomorrow, most of the recordings related to that grand jury proceeding will be made public. So I think it's appropriate now for us to be able to share details as it relates to that grand jury proceeding.
And in that 2.5-day proceeding, Cameron says he presented evidence that Breonna Taylor's boyfriend, Kenneth Walker, did fire the first shot as officers stormed into the apartment, hitting Sergeant Jonathan Mattingly in the leg.
This notion that somehow there was a friendly fire or crossfire that hit Sergeant Mattingly is a silly idea.
Cameron says ballistics tests show the 9mm ammo from Walker's gun matches the bullet believed to have hit Mattingly. He disputes recent speculation that Mattingly may have been hit by gunfire from Detective Brett Hankinson, who was outside the building.
To believe that idea is to suggest that somehow bullets that were fired from outside of the apartment down the side of the apartment unit somehow made a sharp turn left to hit Mattingly in order to match up with the entry wound.
And Cameron says because Walker shot first, he did not recommend murder charges against Mattingly and Officer Miles Cosgrove because they were justified in returning fire, even though Taylor was hit in the crossfire. In your grand jury presentation, did you recommend any charges at all against either Mattingly or Cosgrove in the shooting of Breonna Taylor?
Well, basically your question is about whether we recommended any murder charges against Cosgrove and Mattingly, and the answer is no. Ultimately, our judgment is that the charge that we could prove at trial beyond a reasonable doubt was for wanton endangerment against Mr. Hankinson.
Cameron says presenting the grand jury with a murder charge would not have been appropriate.
They're an independent body. If they wanted to make a assessment about different charges, they could have done that, but our recommendation was that Mattingly and Cosgrove were justified in their acts and their conduct.
And Cameron says he did tell the jury that the one witness who says he heard the officers announce their presence before knocking down the apartment door later changed his story.
We presented on all of the discrepancies in his testimony. We provided all of that information to the grand jury for them to hear and to process.
Bottom line, in the end, no one faces charges in connection to Taylor's death.
No one, again, doesn't realize the tragedy here, but that also does not give us a license to make charges that are not founded on the law and the facts.
Lawrence, what the protesters have been demanding for months now is justice for Breonna Taylor. Does Cameron believe that justice has been served in this case?
Well, I asked him that, and Cameron pointed to something he said during his news conference last week, that sometimes criminal law is not adequate to respond to tragedy.
Our responsibility in the AG's office is to the truth and to the facts. I cannot fashion the facts in such a way to meet a narrative that in many ways had already been put out there before the facts had been put out there.
We'll have more with Cameron tomorrow, including a reaction about the grand jury decision, including some personal attacks against him. Lawrence Smith, WDRB News.
Isn't it amazing how that interview that I have for y'all, that y'all can listen at your leisure, and just to prove to y'all, I'm going to give y'all a snippet of it, how low it is, that's what you're hearing, if you can hear anything.
Talk about first why you decided to sit down and talk about the Taylor case in the grand jury proceeding in the first place.
So y'all will have that to listen to at your leisure. Now, I did listen to it, and you know, he came off like he was so competent, and he's worried and he's concerned, but he's trying to save his own coon ass. So that move that he made, that the article that I just read to y'all, that move that he made here, where he had this motion of extension to be filed, when he filed that and that was presented to the judge, he didn't have what he was supposed to have. Now, some judges, you don't know how they move. They may be irritated with your ass and say, because they can extend things. He could have filed that motion yesterday. He had no intent. So he wants a reprieve because he's concerned, you know, because there's a lot of questions that we are asking that's going down. You know, why was they there? Because everything that the pigs did was illegal. And he don't give a damn about her being murdered. But I had said day one, my royal family, and I couldn't have foreseen that all this was going to even happen. He done. Because now what's going on is shit we ain't never seen happen before. So I will leave both of these links here, and it's just, that's all it is. But people like to read stuff, you know. He didn't do his part. That's how I look at it. But let me play this audio.
The Attorney General moves to delay release of Breonna Taylor grand jury records, National Review. Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron's office on Wednesday announced that it is moving to delay the public release of grand jury records in the case of Breonna Taylor, whose fatal shooting by police in March has ignited protests across the nation. Cameron's office filed a motion Tuesday night to delay the release of the grand jury records by a week with the aim of protecting the identities of witnesses, especially private citizens, named in the audio recording. The recording was originally slated to be released publicly later on Wednesday. The motion requests to redact personal identifiers of any named person, and to redact both names and personal identifiers of any private citizen. Jefferson Circuit Court Judge Ann Bailey Smith is expected to rule on Cameron's motion on Wednesday. Taylor, a black 26-year-old emergency medical worker, was shot 8 times in her Louisville, Kentucky apartment on March 13 as police officers executed a search warrant for 2 men who were known to reside there. The warrant was issued because police suspected that a man connected to a drug ring was receiving packages containing drugs at Taylor's apartment, but no drugs were found in the botched raid. Last week, the Kentucky Attorney General's office announced first-degree wanton endangerment charges against one of the officers who shot into Taylor's apartment. The officer was not charged with murder, and the other 2 officers involved in the fatal shooting were not charged. Hours after the charges were announced on Wednesday of last week, protesters took to the streets in Louisville and set fires, caused property damage, and failed to disperse after being warned, police said. 2 Louisville police officers were shot and sustained serious injuries, and nearly 100 protesters were arrested during the night's demonstrations. Send a tip to the news team at NR.
Now, isn't that, you know what I was thinking? How ridiculous all this shit is. Don't want to hold nobody responsible for this girl's death. Thinking you throw her mama $12 million of our taxpayer dollars. Can you imagine just alone what's been spent on this case to save some gangsters that are police and we pay them? And then you got this true ass nigga using every stall tactic that he can use. See, he had no intent. And then you try to come off like you all confident in that interview last night. You worry. Like I said, my royal family, nobody ain't getting no sleep in this. Nobody gets no peace in this at all. Henceforth. I didn't already put that in the universe. I mean what I say. Y'all keep doing this shit to us constantly. And we real done with your greasy ass ways. You know, and you want to hide behind the law. So you want to wreak reprieve because you know it's some shit in there you don't want nobody to listen to. Now, based on my research, my royal family, it's 20 hours. I'll listen to all 20 hours. I don't work no more. I got all day, all night and everything because I'm going to scrutinize it. And I want to see the transcript itself so I can bust out my highlighter. I got a printer like everybody else. So play your games. They didn't grant that shit for him so he can have him a reprieve and see if he could throw a monkey wrench off in this and all of that. You know, when you presenting stuff to the judge don't need that stuff deacted. The judge can have their staff do that. So you didn't do your fucking job. And you're lucky that the judge didn't slap something on your ass. But you know, you ain't gonna get around. You ain't gonna get around our Father. You have already chose your side. You know, you already don't want to be a part of none of this. So you sealed your fate. So now you want to play these games and want to have a fucking attitude and stuff. Well, I've been had an attitude with coons like you. Been. So it is what it is, my royal family. I wanted to get that out as soon as possible. We ain't gonna linger this shit on. So, my royal family, render your voice with your beautiful divine words. And as always, my royal family, I thank you for your love. I thank you for your support. And with that said, Ashe.